We are going to take a fascinating journey through the lens of history to discuss how the confiscated gold coins were then converted into gold bullion bars. So stick with me here as we explore. I love to do videos like this when we talk about the history of gold and silver. It's one of the many different topics that I do on this channel with relation to precious metals of all sorts. I'm going to be referencing a piece here by Roger Burdett from Coin Week. There's been a lot of debate about Roosevelt's Executive Order 6102 that forbade the hoarding of gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates. The order of April 5th, 1933, and the subsequent removal of gold coins and gold notes from commercial circulation, while likely traumatic for a few, had little impact on most American families. Ordinary wage earners and white-collar employees rarely saw gold coins in circulation. Savings, when not kept in a bank account, were mostly in paper currency, and whatever silver coins could be saved from time to time. The executive order was directed primarily at those who had hoarded gold in the month prior to the order, who had kept gold as a speculative investment pending any devaluation of the dollar. Rumors of devaluation and changes in the price of gold had circulated for more than a year, and the Hoover administration had taken steps to identify those holding large amounts of gold coins. During the 1932 presidential campaign in October, Hoover told a large audience in Des Moines that just after the Great Britain abandoned the gold standard, the Secretary of the Treasury informed him that unless something could be done to thwart speculators, the United States could be forced off the gold standard within 2 weeks. We have defended the country from being forced off the gold standard, with its crushing effect on all who are in debt, Hoover says. We determined that we should not enter the morass of using the printing press for currency of bonds. All human experience has demonstrated that that path, once taken, cannot be stopped, and that the moral integrity of the government would be sacrificed because ultimately both currency and bonds would become valueless. Those were timely words that he spoke, indeed. After telling his audience how successful his administration had been, Hoover, who wrote most of his own speeches, then inserted a strange, yet typical comment. Thousands of our people, in their bitter distress and losses, are saying that things could not be worse. No person who has had any remote understanding of the forces which confronted this country during these last 18 months ever utters that remark. Let no man tell you that it could not be worse. It could be so much worse that these days now, so distressing as they are, would look like veritable prosperity. Well, and the thing is he proved to be right, because really, in reality, if we had stuck with Hoover's policies, they would have been out of the Depression much longer than it had lasted. In fact, it's actually the New Deal policies that made things worse. A lot of Americans don't really know that we've been taught so many different things throughout history. But that is indeed the case. According to the Federal Reserve, the article continues, reports quoted in major newspapers at the time, approximately $650 million in gold and gold certificates was turned in between March 6th and April 7th of 1933. That left about $750 million outstanding. However, much of this was exported without record, converted to commercial uses such as jewelry, hoarded without record, or lost. And we see a lot of that gold bullion come back into the United States, and a lot of it in the last decade that caused the price of pre-33 gold to plummet to almost near spot price. And I took advantage of some of those deals with some of the gold that you see here. And it's pretty remarkable to see how much of that stuff was taken out. People knew, and people saw the writing on the wall what was coming and prepared accordingly. The executive order of April 5th was intended to encourage the return as much of this outstanding balance as possible. The United States Mint supplied somewhat different estimates for domestic gold coins in the United States. The mint number is using the old $20.67 value, which is what you see here. This equal to a one gold coin, $20.67, to equal a single gold coin that would be traded in. And most gold coins held by those were probably St. Gaudens, although I'm sure that there were still many of the coronet style gold double eagles that still circulated as well during that time. Pretty amazing. And that's only served to further confuse Treasury and administration officials. The executive order and subsequent legislation included several significant exceptions which guaranteed continual private ownership of gold coins. Gold coins totaling $100 or less per person, slightly less than 5 ounces of gold, as there's 0.96 ounces of gold in one of these gold coins here. That was typical. Were exempt from anti-hoarding order. This enabled a typical family of four to retain up to $400 without penalty. The population of the United States was estimated at about 125.5 million on July 1st, 1933. If each person had kept 5 $20 gold coins, then the total would have been a staggering $12.5 trillion dollars worth of gold, or an amount 3 times the total gold coin production of the Mint Bureau since 1795. It was called the Mint Bureau back then, not the U.S. Mint. That $100 exemption was dropped in December of 1933, but continued to confuse citizens and Treasury agents for many years. Additionally, the exemption of numismatic gold allowed nearly anyone who cared to form a collection that was not subject to nationalization. During the 1933 to 49 interval, there was no record of any numismatic collection being involuntarily seized. The sparse numismatic-related anecdotes uniformly refers to hoards or speculators, not coin collectors. Withdrawal of convertibility on April 20th officially removed the U.S. from the gold standard. This severed the connection between the commodity of gold and all other forms of currency. It had the further advantage of increasing the available money supply to uniformly revaluing government-held gold at the open market price of approximately $29 per ounce, although this was not officially done until September the 8th, 1933. An additional advantage was that it pulled the rug out from under international currency speculators who were stuck holding dollars they could no longer exchange for gold. With passage of the Gold Reserve Act on January 30th, 1934, the Treasury Department found itself in possession of immense quantities of gold coins of no use in commerce, and of which were now legally bullion. On August 4th, Mint Director Nellie Taylor Rose issued an order to Mint superintendents. You are authorized to proceed with the melting of general stocks of domestic gold coin as soon as working conditions warrant. The task would take nearly 6 years to complete due to chronic staff shortages, high demand for regular coinage, and a huge influx of foreign gold purchased at the new price of $35 per ounce. How did the conversion of millions of coins into 900 fine gold bars take place? Well, we'll discuss that. Let's remove this because now that exchange rate of $20.67 is now null and void. Gold has been revalued to $35 per troy ounce. It's crazy. The primary consideration was security in making this conversion from coins to bars. Not merely the usual protection of gold from loss or theft, but also the influence of international politics on America's national security. President Roosevelt, who was a former Assistant Secretary of the Navy, learned from events surrounding the actions of General Billy Mitchell in 1921, and although calling Mitchell pernicious at time, he later embraced the importance of air power and floating air bases, carriers advocated by Mitchell. The president had a practical and realistic approach to the evolving dictatorships in Germany and Japan. To counter this, he encouraged expansion of our military readiness and weapons development, and especially the construction of aircraft carriers, aircrafts, and support ships to safeguard America's gold, Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthal's staff developed a three-step plan. The first step was to move gold in all forms away from the lightly defended West Coast. The War Department under Secretaries George Dern and Harry H. Woodring reasoned that if Japan were to attack, their most likely route was island hopping through the Aleutian Islands in Alaska and east and south through Alaska and British Columbia into the states of Washington, Oregon, and California. Morgenthau had gold moved from San Francisco to the more spacious Denver Mint. The second step was to reduce the volume of vault space required to store gold. This was accomplished by having the Philadelphia and Denver mints melt coins into bars without extensive assays or reweighing. And finally, the third step was to build a central storage facility for gold on land at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and a similar facility for silver bullion at West Point Military Academy. And so begins the gold melting. Although we collectors concentrate on a coin's date and mint mark, the Gold Reserve Act made all coins identical, just bullion in different forms. Mint Director Ross, Assistant Directors Mary O'Reilly, and after December 1939, Frank Leland Howard organized and directed the mint superintendents in melting. Dates and mints were ignored, and none of the coins were counted. The quantities and weights of bagged coins were accepted as correct. The usual complement of workers involved in coin melting was 5. This included a representative from the superintendent and cashier who opened vault cages, designated bags for removal, and counted each bag as it was removed in the vault and put on a truck, a flatbed cart, or trolley. A similar representative for the melter and refiner counted bags put on the truck. A third person representing the mint director observed all actions and kept an independent count of bags. Lastly, 2 laborers loaded bags into trucks and removed them for melting. The workmen wore leather gloves and aprons. Everything that touched coins or bars was later burned to recover any gold that had worn off. Amazing. An interesting twist to the operation was that although gold was officially valued at $35 per ounce, mint employees tracked coins by bag count and at their old face value. Thus, each bag of gold coins containing 5,000 of the old value was worth $8,467.74 at the new rate. But trying to apply the adjustment to every bag was a waste of time, as bars, it would all be revalued in bulk. Once a vault cage was empty, or the truck full, the little procession went to the melting and refining department. Along the way, no one was allowed to touch the truck or even come near it. Violation would mean a reprimand and possibly having to recount everything. At melting and refining, large tilt electronic induction furnace were equipped with crucibles awaiting coins to melt. Leland Howard wrote, "We melt gold in approximately 10,000-ounce pots, which will produce approximately 24 bars, weighing 400 ounces per bar." Let's pretend for a moment that this is a 400-ounce bar. I know it's not, but we're just for the sake of display here, I'm going to put it here as a reference, as that would it be. Of course, it would not be pure gold like this is, but nonetheless, a pure gold bar, it did, or a gold bar weighing 400 ounces, it would become. Pretty remarkable indeed to see. We carry the entire lot as one bookkeeping entry by assigning it to a melt number. As the metal in the pot is homogeneous mass, we eliminate a lot assaying it as well as bookkeeping entries. Using Howard's note as a guide, the maximum bags melted in one furnace was 36 to $9,020 gold double eagles, or 9,675 troy ounces of gold coin alloy. That's right. It's a lot of these coins melted down. Pretty amazing to see or to read about. It's pretty remarkable to get this level of detail. In the mid to late 30s, the Philadelphia Mint is believed to have had at least 12 tilting induction furnaces with a capacity of 10,000 troy ounces each. A furnace would produce 2 to 3 complete melts and pouring into bar molds per day, or if overtime were authorized. These furnaces had to serve normal silver and 5-cent coin alloy melting, and that limited gold melts to as available basis. If there were $1 million in gold coins to melt, this used 200 bags at $5,000 each and required 6 melts of 36 bags each to complete. And that's pretty amazing. They actually have some notes here about how that was done with some numbers here. It's pretty interesting. And we can see here this and similar working tables show that over irregular intervals from 1934 through about 1941, most Treasury Department gold coins and those held by Federal Reserve banks were melted into coin gold bars. Each bar weighed 400 troy ounces and was stamped with its weight and a control number. Coin bar, so in coin gold, that's 90% gold, right? Crazy. The process was kept as simple as possible. The only counting was bags of coins. There was no examination or weighing of coins. There was no strict measurement of gold in each bar, although the bars were weighed separately and stamped with their weight and a control number. Canvas bags and workers' aprons and gloves were later burned in a closed gas furnace. The ashes were cleaned and refined to collect any remaining gold. After each day's melting, the gold coin bars were counted, stacked on a truck, and taken to an empty vault for temporary storage. Later, once the gold bullion repository at Fort Knox was complete, bars were loaded into pallets and delivered by train. As from the beginning of the process, representatives for multiple departments checked the work. Any discrepancies had to be resolved before anything else could be done. And folks, that therein lies the first and only real audit of the Fort Knox depository. When that happened, it was one done in 1954, but many people feel that wasn't as transparent as it should be or complete as it should be. And other than a media showing of Fort Knox in 1973, there's not been any kind of audit since then. This is why many people don't believe the gold is there. But there you have it, a fascinating story about how transferring these confiscated gold coins, $20 gold coins, led to the what we have now with our gold reserves at Fort Knox, or a large part of them. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.